What's going on, guys? It's Alexander Padei here with the one and only Gary Perry. He handles diversity, equity, inclusion over at Revolutionary Clinics. My man, how you doing?
Pretty good. How about yourself, huh?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. How are things going? What's been up?
Things are pretty good. I'm just working pretty diligently with the leads and executive team over at Rev. We're building out year one of our diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy for 2021. Things are moving pretty quickly and moving pretty well, actually.
That's great, man. So, we're here for the gift program, the launch event. And my first question to you is, thinking about this new mentorship program and all that it'll include, what excites you about it, as far as inclusivity, diversity in Black Boston cannabis is concerned?
I think for me, a big part of it is people actually being able to see how this works before they jump into it. I fear that a lot of folks, they move into this full steam ahead, they get their license, they get their certifications, and they open their doors, and they're not too keen on how to run this style of business. And so I think having that mentorship, at the very least, helps them to get some insight on how to operate these businesses as opposed to any other business that they may have operated before.
I mean, education is such an important factor in the whole conversation, especially given that this is a brand new industry. How do you feel about the current state of affairs when it comes to educating? And what do you see as the future of that, including and beyond the gift program?
Education is key. It's the biggest component of everything. It's the biggest component of everything. Without education, we're super lost. So I think that, this is a huge component. It's a component that is not as fun or as flashy. So it's not as exciting for most people, but it is just as important.
I like that. Let's say gift succeeds at its fullest capacity. What are your hopes for the effect that it'll have on the cannabis community?
The effect I'm hoping for is a little bit of a backtracking. The industry has been pretty whitewashed from the start, and I'm hoping that this kind of can put some retroactive black back in the industry in a way that kind of helps to steer this thing in the right direction before it's all in one way.
Sure. Can you speak more to that? What do you think was the source of the whitewashing? Why are we at the point that we're at now?
I believe it's the way the licenses happened. I believe it's the way that they went out. I also believe that from the very start with the DPH and not having a system in play for economic empowerment or social equity before it was handed off to the cannabis control community set a bunch of companies off on a trajectory unchecked until that happened. And then when the CCC came in, kind of threw some wrenches in folks' ways, some necessary wrenches, but some wrenches indeed.
Absolutely.
So I definitely see this as an opportunity to kind of bring more diverse perspective into the game as it progresses, as opposed to us following suit from what's been done the past 4 or 5 years.
Sure. I mean, there's definitely a story here. Cannabis is as black as it gets, as far as I'm concerned, right? And it has such a long history with us as African Americans. And of course, now within 4 or 5 years of the topic of cannabis even coming up, here we are again. Why is equity and inclusion in cannabis so important? With all of that being said,
I think it would have been a given had this thing rolled out the way it was supposed to. Because it hasn't. There is an inherent push for inclusivity to this industry, as in every other industry. Seeing it this is as early and as young as it is, we have an opportunity, hopefully, to fight a lot less for that stake in this game, in this industry.
Do you see anything when you compare Boston to another industry, say Colorado? What are the differences and the similarities to those two communities, especially when it comes to the African American cannabis community?
I think that, and the differences are quite apparent early on with the pushes for social equity and economic empowerment from the top, as opposed to it being a write-in or something that an amendment, so to speak. I think that a lot of other states have gotten to lead. The legalization of this is a social justice movement in general, and so a lot of states have taken the opportunity to run with that first, as opposed to running with capitalism first. And I think that there's a difference in that approach for sure. The similarities are, the things that are just standard across the industry. The way stuff is packaged, the way it's sold, the way it's distributed. Most of those things are the same from state to state. And then Massachusetts has its own regulations, of course, but those are the only real differences and similarities. It's still the plant, still sold the same way it's been sold, still packaged the same way. So I don't really see too many similarities that stand out, other than like the regular framework of the industry.
Sure. Now, I know that you work over at Rev Clinics. I'm curious, how did you find your way over there? What's the story there?
I went to make a purchase one day. One of the bud tenders remembered me from my work over at Sierra Naturals. I was there for some time, and then I left that company and came to Rev to make a purchase. And someone remembered me and called me in for an interview, and the rest is history.
Now, obviously, a large part of your role there has to do with effective communication and inclusive communication at that. I'm curious, when you think about these various brands, whitewashed or not, what's the key to communicating effectively to an African American audience and making them not only feel included, but be included?
Right. I think there's got to be a level of ownership. There's got to be some level of equity involved in what's going on. What are you doing for the community? Most of us come from an era where even though they were selling drugs that, weren't okay, they still provided community resources for food drives, toy drives, after school programs, whatever it is. So even on that end of things, you can still look out for the community. So you would only expect that from a more legitimized version of this hustle.
Absolutely. That's powerful, to think about how we have people who have the opportunity now to make possibly billions of dollars. We still have people who are in jail right now for selling the same product all of 10 years ago, 15 years, less. People still today in different states who are going through the same thing. And those are two very, very different dynamics at play.
For sure.
Even that alone feels like a very compelling image. Two images, dichotomy, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
Well, all right, man. I really appreciate you coming by. Why don't you say one last thing about, this event, what's coming? How do you feel about the present and the future of Boston cannabis in general with, in light of GIFT and everything else that's been going on?
For sure. I think that, this is definitely an addition, I think, to what we're trying to build here. There are some people in this industry who are trying to get rich, and then there are some of us who are trying to escape, very near poverty like states of being. And I think that as time progresses, we'll see more genuine approaches from a lot of different organizations that are community serving and community first, and the community will in turn take care of those organizations as well.
Powerful stuff, man.
So if anything, I say that to say, take care of the hood and the hood take care of you.
That's it, man.
Right.
Guys, this is Gary Perry. I'm Alexander Padei. Really appreciate you guys listening to the interview. And Gary, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
All right, have a good day.